never like following another ambassadorial scholar because I almost want to cry whenever I'm sitting there and remembering all the things that you do and experience while you're abroad. My name is Rebecca Maxwell. Good afternoon. You all get to hear me again after talking about Rotaract. A lot of you have heard me speak about my ambassadorial scholarship before, and so I'm actually going to tell you a little bit, take a little bit different slant on it today. A lot of you have heard probably about some of the changes that they've done, so I want to clarify something real quick because Paulina and I were talking about it. And when we went, we were actually, and we are considered Rotary ambassadorial scholars. And they have recently changed it a few years ago to global grant scholars. So just to make that clarification in case you kind of get confused with the differences. One thing with the change that I love about District 5910 is even though they have made that change, now there's not so much of a requirement to stay involved with Rotary when you're abroad, but District 5910U have made a consistent effort to keep that involvement up because that is a key difference between Rotary scholarships and Rotary exchange programs compared to other study abroad opportunities, so that's very exciting. You heard me speak a little bit about Rotaract, and that's really how I got involved with Rotary and how I learned about this experience. It was actually through the Lamar University Rotaract Club. I got involved in 2010, and the advisor, Teresa Simpson, one day she said, have you ever thought about studying abroad? I said, well, yes, I have, but I'm really focused on trying to finish my degree in 4 years. I was the first of my siblings to graduate from college. I was very much focused on getting done in 4 years. And so she said, well, you could go abroad for your postgraduate degree, try, study and get your master's while you're abroad. So because of her encouragement and people like you who are out there interacting with students every day and hearing about different people who want to have these opportunities, her encouragement made me look more into the Rotary Ambassadorial Scholarship. Some of the slides, as they go through, you're going to see some different pictures of my Rotary experience. I was able to get involved with a Rotaract club while I actually went to Scotland studying in Glasgow. And you'll see some different pictures from different Rotary Club meetings, presentations, and service projects. And then we'll see some pictures from my scholarly activities and then other experiences throughout Europe. And I took that part really seriously as far as an Rotary ambassadorial scholar. Rotary I put first, my ambassador trying to be an ambassador for the US to another country second, and then my scholarly activities I actually put third, which was different from me coming from Lamar University where I was involved in the honors program and trying to get great grades and everything like that, which I did graduate, so that's good. But that was hard sometimes because you have an invitation to go to either a Rotary dinner or some other activity to learn about the culture, and you might have a test or a report or something due the next day. So as a student, I'm sure Paulina might have experienced that too, you're sitting there going, okay, Rotary experience, or do I stay at, in my room and study? And of course, it was very easy to say, oh, I'm going to go to Rotary. But that really does make the difference. The experience of another country is what was so exciting. I was fortunate while I was abroad. The Glasgow Rotary Club was actually the first Rotary Club in Scotland, and they were celebrating their centennial the year that I was there. So that was fabulous because they had a lot of special events that I was able to attend as a scholar. And also, at the time, the Rotary International President, Kalyan Banerjee, was actually at some of the different functions. So that was really exciting for me as a Rotaract student, and then a Rotaract scholar to be able to, a Rotary scholar to be able to meet and interact with him on several different occasions. One thing that has been interesting, as I've come back and even before I left, I've gotten some interesting questions as far as where we are sending scholars. I had, as far as going to Scotland, it was funny because I had someone say, well, are you prepared for the language barrier? I thought, language barrier? What are you talking about? They speak English. And they said, have you been to Scotland? And so whenever I arrived, the first time you get into a taxi or any type of any first interactions with them, you go, oh, that's what they were talking about. So luckily I was able to learn how to communicate by the end of the experience, but every once in a while there was, some very thick accents that you couldn't quite get around, but it was interesting. Another part of going to Scotland was I got questions about, well, we have a very good relationship with the UK. So why are we going to send scholars to a country where we already have a very good working relationship? So I want to ask you all a question. If you don't mind raising your hand, if you are in a committed relationship with somebody, okay, if you're married or dating someone, raise your hand for me, please. Anybody in this room? Okay. Imagine if you stopped talking to that person on a regular basis. How long would that last? Okay. Same thing. If we don't keep sending scholars to countries where we have a good working relationship, that might diminish. And I was, as part of my scholarly activities, the program that I went to was at Strathclyde University, and it was an international marketing master's degree. And I was actually the only North American student in that program. We had a group of 90 students, and I was the only North American, and we actually only had 5 students who were from either England or Scotland. Everyone else was from different parts of the world, a lot from Europe, a lot from different countries of Asia, South and Central America. So that was a wonderful opportunity for me. I was going to one country, but I actually learned about the culture of many others, and I became friends with a lot of people from around the world. So that was great as, again, Rotary ambassadorial scholar, being able to make connections with so many different people who represent so many different countries. That was really exciting. And since then, actually, another question I get asked is, have you been back? Were you planning to go back? Or what does that look like for travel for you? And one of my best friends while I was there was from Costa Rica, and she did move back to Costa Rica after we graduated. And so I actually was able to go last year to visit her in Costa Rica with my sister. So that was another opportunity to learn about, again, another country, another part of the world. And then a good friend who I made while I was in Scotland, he's from Germany. And so he actually invited me to his wedding this summer. So I'm going to be going to Germany this summer and then hopping over to Scotland to see a lot of friends and people who are still in Scotland. But that was really exciting to me to be able to keep up those connections and keep those relationships going, because that not only reached Scotland now, but so many other countries around the world. Speaking of Germany, it wasn't my friend, luckily, but one of the interesting experiences as a scholar when you're abroad, or I'm sure anytime you go abroad, and some of you might have experienced this, sometimes you get into very difficult discussions. People ask you very difficult questions, especially whenever you say you're from the U.S., and then whenever they ask you where in the U.S. and you say Texas, it can be very interesting, but you have to be prepared for that, and we do have a training that we go to before we leave, and we talk about ways to answer questions and stay calm and don't get too emotional, and be the person who you can actually discuss difficult topics with. So I try to remember that. Wasn't always easy, but at the time, several different people had very serious conversations about some things going on in the Middle East, different things, and my answer came down to, a lot of times I said, you know what, we're not perfect, but point out one person who is, and we're trying. That's why I'm here. I'm here to talk with you. I'm here to learn about a different culture, and then I'm going to take that back and I'm going to speak to other people about it. And one of the proudest moments for me as a scholar was whenever, in this one particular instance, it was a German gentleman who I had met, and he said, I have never liked Americans. I had never met an American that I've had this long of a conversation with who did not get emotionally upset and could not have a conversation with me. So now, because of you, I respect America. And that, for me, as a scholar, was what it was all about. To be able to have an opportunity to make that difference. And see, I told you I was going to get all emotional. Anyway. With with being abroad and having that opportunity, one of the exciting things for me was whenever you go to another country like that, it's so much easier to travel around while you're there. And so some of these pictures that are rolling now are from other parts of Europe. Before I left, I was a student at Lamar and was very fortunate to receive several scholarships while I was there. So I graduated with a good amount of money in my savings account. So whenever I went abroad, I said, okay, I'm going to use as much as I can, as much time as I can to go anywhere. And anytime I had any type of a three-day weekend or a break or anything, I traveled. And whenever you're abroad like that, you meet a lot of people. Friends who I was able to go spend a week in Paris because one of my friends had a sister who was studying there, and so I came back with very little in my savings account. But because of that, it just brought in that experience. And one of the pictures that'll come up here towards the end, at the last month I was abroad, I had enough money left to make one more trip, and I was trying to get to Spain because that was a country I had not been to yet. And I had about 5 people in my master's degree program who wanted to go with me. So we made plans, I booked tickets. No one else did buy a ticket though, and everyone else dropped out. So I was trying to decide, okay, am I actually going to go? I'd been traveling quite a bit, but had not gone by myself, going there by myself and spending an entire trip by myself. So I thought, okay, am I going to do this by myself, or should I just stay around Glasgow? And I decided to go ahead and go. And then a couple weeks later, before I went, an ambassadorial scholar contacted me through email, and he was coming to Glasgow. He was the next scholar coming to that area, and he said, hey, I need some place, contacting you to see if you're still there, and I would love to meet up with you. I'll learn a little bit about the city, and I need some place to leave my bags because I'm going to be going traveling before I come to Scotland. I said, oh, great, yeah, sure, come, we'll meet. We met up, and I had a friend who had an apartment, so we left his bags at the apartment, and I said, well, where are you going? And one of the places he was going was Spain, to Barcelona, where I had booked tickets. I said, really? Well, when are you going to be there? And it was the exact same weekend that I was going to be there. So then we were able to meet and travel through parts of Barcelona together, and then I was able to pass on some of my experience as an ambassadorial scholar to him that helped him throughout. We talked a little bit and helped him throughout his year. So that's really what being an ambassadorial scholar meant, I believe, to Paulina and I. That's why we're here, to be able to share that experience. And I think the next picture is where Matt's going to come up. And that's what it's, yeah, there he is. So that's a picture of us at the top of Mount Serrat in Barcelona. And so that was really exciting to be able to pass that on to somebody else and share that experience with somebody else. Really quickly, I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing now and what Rotary has continued to mean to me. I actually am excited to say I'm actually using my master's degree and started my own marketing consulting business a year and a half ago, and I'm still trying to build it. And anyone who started a business, you know, it's not as easy as you think it might be, but I'm excited to be doing that. I also work a little bit with Better Business Bureau here in Southeast Texas, which the Better Business office here in Beaumont was started by the Beaumont Rotary Club. So that was an exciting connection that was made, and I helped them just on a part-time hourly basis with some of their educational programs, talking about ethics and going and working with middle school and high school students talking about ethics. So that's exciting. Also with Rotaract being a part of the Beaumont Rotary Club, Rotaract Club has been very exciting in a way to give back to Rotary. So with that, thank you. You are the ones who chose Paulina and I to be able to go on a study abroad exchange, and you're the reason that we are still involved, still trying to give back to our communities, and being a part of Rotary still. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you very much for your presentations. Really, hopefully it emphasized the importance of our exchange program. With this District 5910, we've been doing this for a number of years, and I think it's really great. I encourage you, encourage each of the clubs in this district to find and sponsor new global grant scholars for us. They've changed the program now.